Welcome to all of you for this next episode of WiTalks. And today, our topic is staying centered through transition. So, today we have our esteemed guest, Ms. Anjali Mohanty. Now, if I have to tell you about her, she's a banker, investor, and founder of agri-tech and finance startup. She comes with 30 years of banking experience building businesses and by mentoring various teams in her career. She has worked for Citibank and Deutsche Bank, and she's one of those few bankers who comes with the experience across retail, commercial, and corporate bank. I'll read out a little more about her detailed journey. She has been, like I said before, she has been a banker for a longest time. She was part of the India management team in Citibank and Deutsche Bank, transaction bank head of Deutsche Bank from 2011 to 2018, managing the largest businesses vertical for India. From April of 2019 to August of 2020, she ran the global MNC client vertical for Deutsche Bank Asia, managing clients and teams across 14 countries. And now we all are aware 2020 was the year of pandemic. So of course, it hit all of us. But Anjali decided to take a different turn altogether. So in 2020, when the pandemic hit, she decided to quit all of this and do something really different. And that's when she thought of doing something for the largest social impact in India. And she came up with this agri tech and finance company, the startup. So here we have Anjali Mohanty. Anjali, welcome to this Wit Talk. Great to have you over here.
Hello, Shreya. Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening.
Thanks. We are really glad to have you here. And more so, I want to really hear about your journey. I know that you have spent a lot of time, in Citibank and Deutsche Bank too. So I want to know what are the transitions that you went through in this journey at Citibank and the other, Deutsche Bank, and then the move towards your startup.
That one question alone can last the entire 1 hour, but I will try and keep it short. Yeah, I know when you all reach out to me to share my journey, obviously, an occasion like that makes you sit back and think a little bit. It's interesting when you mentioned the topic. It's staying grounded through transitions, I guess, right? That's what you've said,
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
a time
Staying centered.
where staying centered around, in transitions, and this is a time where many people are seeing a lot of transition, personally, professionally, in and around them, friends, family. It's been a constant change. Uh, for when I describe my own career, it's interesting. I've always said that it's been a career where change has been the only constant, and I say that with a lot of a thought. And personally, for me, that's been a very exciting part of my journey. That I've really enjoyed, the change. I come from an army background, and having grown in the army, as you know, you're constantly moving places. So change started very early in my life, and in some ways, I do believe that that may have given me a good a platform or a good foundation when it comes to accepting, because you had no choice, you had to accept change. So every few years, we moved cities, we moved schools, new set of friends, new neighbors, new environment. And I think that's really for me been a very important part, the way I think of my reason for being so comfortable with change. And it's not easy for everyone. Some people learn it, some people have it, and some people grow with it. So I was blessed to grow with it. Coming to my career, Citibank, I finished my education, did my MBA. Like everybody, 30 years ago, banking was a great career, so got into Citibank from campus. And I have to say that I feel quite blessed to have started my organization with a bank like that, which was it was the early days for Citi in the retail banking as well as in India. And all of us who joined at the early 90s, we had an amazing opportunity to be part of that journey of the bank when they were trying to build out new products, new services every day. They were trying to adapt to the local needs of the Indian clients. and also to capture the what India was going through. India was going through liberalization at that point, and so you had very interesting new solutions that you could launch, keeping in mind what was happening with population around you and the economy around you. So it gave me a great chance to do various things. I did literally every 3 year was a different career. I would say a different career because it felt like a completely different organization. So, there was a change from one part of the bank. People, those who know banking will know the asset side and the liability side, for example, which means dealing with people who give you money and actually lending are completely two different parts. So, I had the opportunity to be on one hand taking deposits and investments, on the other hand actually lending money out, and then doing service in between. From retail I moved into the corporate bank. In between there was a stint in the commercial bank, which is targeting small and medium corporate clients, and then the large corporate clients. Through all of this, I think the only message that I can give, since the brief that you all gave me, is I should try and try and give some of my learnings or messages, to the team, or to all the young audience that we have. Um, I embraced change and I actually started to look forward to it. Right, like I said, it's good and bad. The good thing is that you if you enjoy change, it's nice to have something different every few years. The bad thing is you start getting restless if you don't get that. So it's a bit of both. But you learn to your mind is tuned to say that there's a new skill set and a new opportunity I'm going to get. Right. The other very important thing is the learning never stopped. And I that's a piece of advice I give everybody. I mean, even now, 30 years later, I still find the need, and I'm not saying it as though I do it, out of only choice. There's a need. The need to constantly read up and stay in touch and learn new things is extremely high. And fortunately for me, I enjoyed that. So I think don't stop learning. Challenge yourself, to take on new, opportunities when they come your way. I have seen people hesitate. I've also hesitated once or twice in my career, but I've had many people who worked for me who've been nervous about change, and I can't blame you. It's not easy when you ask them to move from one kind of job to a very different kind of role, even within the same organization, leave alone organizations. There is that reservation that, oh, I'm doing so well, I know this so well. Is it something that I'm really ready for? All I can say is that when you put your mind to it, and if you are honest to yourself and authentic, and you just keep the learning journey on, nothing is impossible. So my simple message is keep learning, embrace and accept change when it comes, and make use of the opportunity. I think you'll be a much richer person, personally and professionally, for all the new insights that you would have gained by going through that change process.
So very well said, Anjali, and so many points for our listeners to take from that. Absolutely right about the changes. And I think each and every person in their professional journey or in their personal journey, sometimes they go through different changes, and changes is something which is inevitable, you can say. Like you said, right? It's constant. It's something which we cannot run away from. But like you said, you need to pick up what are the learnings from that changes, what are the things that you can be open to. And I'm sure that our viewers have already made a note of that. And when we talk about this, what are the things which you can keep up with, what are the things you can learn. Also, there is this conversation which I keep on hearing, especially from women folks, right? Is it possible for us to balance all of this? We want to learn, we want to do so many things, and especially when we talk about people, women out there balancing, trying to balance their professional life and their personal life. You have been a successful in both of these, because I know that we have you have a 20-year-old daughter, and you are also managing the professional part so well. And what is the advice over there? Because women constantly question this. We would like to, but can I have all of it? Can I be successful in what I'm doing professionally and also be at happy with what I'm doing personally? So what is it that you would say on this?
Um, it's again another question, which is, I would say, the whole discussion and debate. I personally think sometimes is quite controversial, right? Especially when you say it in the context of women. If you ask me, can I have it all? Or can I balance it? To me, can I have it all really means that am I able to balance my different priorities, right? It could be personal versus professional. It could be anything. It could be, between friends and family. I think we are constantly making a choice, right? And maybe, to be honest, maybe women have it slightly tougher because there are certain roles, both from a from a biological perspective, you can be a mother, and also from a society perspective in terms of roles and responsibilities which are still expected. Let's not shy away from that fact.
Yeah.
So there are certain things, maybe you have to make more choices, than a man. But I think every human being today has to make choices. And so, can I have it all? I think, I mean, that's it's like saying that, can I be the richest person, on the planet, right? So can I have it all really makes it a very finite thing, that it's either all or nothing. There's a huge space in between, right? And that depends on what you define as all. So to me, if you ask me, it's all about your personal choices, and your priorities. And if you ask me, have I done it right? No, there have been many times that, when I reflect back and I feel, oh, maybe, this one I probably, was leaning more towards direction A than B, but I should have done more, maybe more on the personal side. I did more on the professional side. Maybe I did more on the professional side, didn't invest in enough in my friends, or maybe I invested too much in my friends and didn't do enough with my family, right? You always go through that. It's constantly, you're thinking about, hey, have I balanced it? And it is really a tightrope balancing act, uh, uh, because you want to do so much. I think again it comes back to choices, right? And it comes back to the fact that, if you have choices, you're blessed. But at the same time, you have to choose what you want to do. You have to define your own priorities, right? And there's a very interesting, statement that I once read, which I tend to kind of use. It says that schedule your priorities, instead of prioritizing your schedule, right? It's a play with the words. So you have, invariably you'll have a list of, your priority, your schedule in front of you, saying I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what I have to achieve, and you're running with it, right? But spend some time first on, seeing scheduling your priorities first, right? You choose what you want, right? um, and that could be, like I said, different for different people, right? My definition of success could be very different from, my neighbor's definition of success, my daughter's definition of success, right? I mean, I can already see that, big difference between, the two generations. So it starts with first being very clear. Don't have an artificial sense of what success means, or what success means to you. Yes, there is a societal, generally accepted. I mean, like you introduced me, and some nowadays I hesitate when people say successful banker. Yeah, what is a successful banker? Just successful banker does not necessarily mean only somebody who's reached the top. Uh, in general, yes, but if I have been a banker and have contributed, to certain businesses or to certain people I've interacted with, that's also successful. I don't have to be at the top of my, my organization, for example, right? Because it is a pyramid. Not everybody can get to the top. So then you're putting an unnatural pressure on people, saying that success can only be defined if you really go to the top, right? So yeah, like I said, for me it's always been about, am I happy doing what I'm doing? So that's been my personal, I would say, my internal, barometer, so to say, what am I doing, right? Do I wake up feeling happy going to work, or doing what I'm doing at work? If not, it's not worth it, right? Am I constantly feeling guilty about what I'm not doing at home? If that's happening, then I need to, shift my priorities, right? And like I said, there are phases in your life where you lean more towards one. So it's sometimes you put more emphasis on your personal life. There are times when my daughter needed me more than she needs me now. I need her more, right? I'm going to her now and saying, you don't have time for me. I need you to teach me all your new lingo. You need to tell me a little bit about social media, about all these words that these youngsters use, because now I'm in a fintech, so to say. So yeah, it's a constantly changing equation. I'll say that, can you have it all? You can have it all if you define it within your resources and your boundaries and your priorities, right? And your environment, right? You want to wish things away, but you can't, right? It obviously helps if you have a great support system. I have to say, I've been extremely blessed with very supportive, parents, of course, but also, once you get married, it's your in-laws, it's your husband. My daughter, who was actually quite proud of the fact that I was, going to work and didn't hold it against me if I wasn't available, every time she needed me. So I think that makes a big difference as well. So yes, if you're blessed, you have a great support system, a true partner, as I say. But if you're not, then you define what you want, and then you say, okay, this is what I've been dealt with. It's like being dealt with with a set of cards. This is what I've been dealt with. Within this, how do I define success, and how do I define happiness? Because at the end of the day, you want to be happy, and then you try and come as close to it as you can. I hope that
I think
answers your question.
yes, and you have covered so many points over there. In fact, I was going to jump on to another question about, the support system also, but you covered it in this. And so very true, right? It all the success sometimes is you have to define it for yourself. And the happiness, like I truly believe this myself, happiness is within yourself. It's not with some job, or it's not with relationships, or it's not with something which you have to seek outside. You need to define what will make you happy. And I think great way to go is priorities, what you spoke about. Sometimes we put so many things on our list and we want to do all of those things, but then you need to decide what really makes you happy in those things of list that you have put, and probably then prioritize it and say that, okay, you how you balance it. Each one has to probably
Yeah,
understand their own definition of success and happiness at that, right, and balancing it well.
true.
So
And
but
it's
also, yeah,
within
yeah,
yourself.
sorry.
Sorry, Shai, I just want to add that don't allow yourself to be judged by others, right?
Right.
You're your own judge, right? And at the end of the day, and I
Absolutely.
say that it's people who really matter are people who
Hmm.
love you and who want you to be happy, right? And those are the people who matter,
Absolutely.
right? And you should be doing something that you feel happy with them. Don't Very often you allow yourself to be judged by others, and somebody else is defining what success means, and then you that makes it a lot tougher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we put the pressure on ourselves because we think that, okay, we need to reach that. Like you said, right? All of us might not reach that top of the pyramid. But then you need to check where you want to go. And probably that plateau, also, wherever you are, might be the place for your happiness. So, rightly said, all each and every point that you took out over there, Anjali, absolutely resonates with what we are talking over here. And which also, just to touch upon, I know you spoke about it in a brief manner, but there are certain things which is kind of stereotyped in our society, right? Especially when it comes to women. Many of us, like I know, maybe if we talk about the majority of us, probably we have moved out of that stereotype. But still, there is a large part out there, women
Mm.
who get affected, who face a lot because of the stereotyping that happens in the society. Okay. So, and this is kind of a societal conditioning that prevents them from doing or getting what they want to. So, how do you think these women can break it? Like, if you have to see it from their lens, right? If there is a stereotype that exists, how do they break it and move forward?
Mm. I wish I had an answer to that question. I'll be honest, right? It's a question many people try to answer, and that various, different kinds of work, different, organizations do in terms of breaking that stereotype. But it's at the end of the day, it's so deep rooted, in society, and it's so ancient that I don't think you can change it in overnight. It's a gradual process, right? And I think it starts with us acknowledging it. There was a time when even I would kind of maybe deny it when I was much younger. I would kind of deny it. I say, no, this it doesn't exist. I can do what I want, right? For example, there's a lot of talk about how do you get this, balance, as you mentioned, and there was discussions about how do you get more women in the boardroom. Yeah, and I was a great believer of saying it should happen on merit. Women should rise up the ranks because they're doing well. They should be chosen. And I didn't believe in the so-called, there was this whole debate about the quota system, right? But as I grew, actually, as I became more senior and actually reached that management position, completely converted, and I said, no, you need it, because having done that journey, and I said that, now that I'm here, I feel you absolutely need some, positive, affirmative action, right? Whether it is quotas, whether it's, how you want to, think about your organization, whether it's how you want to think about how you are, hiring for different roles, or, or how you are assessing people, because there has to be a different criteria, the way you assess, different people of different ethnicity, of different beliefs, of different, gender. You can't have one straight formula, right? The way you, if you look culturally at people across Asia, they come from very, very different mindsets. So you can't have a simple cookie cutter way of, assessing each person's performance, because what is excellent performance in India might be extremely terrible or rude performance in Japan, or maybe a very, unacceptable performance in Vietnam or another country, right? And when I was doing my last role across countries, that's the other thing which struck me. So, it's at the end of the day, I think you have to build your tools and systems around trying to make it as balanced as possible. But I am also a great believer now that you do need to take some affirmative action. And if, quotas is it, that is because you need more role models. Yeah, I'm just to be very blunt, right? You need more people who are there and who are going to pull more people along with them, right? It is a step change process, and the more, people are conscious, and it could be a man, it could be a woman, it doesn't have to be only a woman, right? In my career, I have had, men, who've been very proud to say that, we've got so many women leaders that we've kind of, developed or helped or enabled, to rise and reach that, position. So it's something that you have to consciously, invest in getting that change made around you. And I say sometimes it even starts at home. How I bring up my daughter, or how I, I would say, do maybe some things differently, right? If I start stereotyping her in terms of come and help me in the kitchen, or, lay the table, etc., etc. Now, in my case, I only have a daughter. It's more relevant when somebody has a son and a daughter. How do you make
Hmm.
sure that you start right at that age, where your son is, laying the table one day and your daughter is doing it the other day? So they start realizing that, this is more about helping and not about stereotyping. So I think change can be done in many ways, right? How do you tell your son to be more, you know um, uh, uh, probably more conscious about, maybe, how the girls, are, what are the challenges that they go through, or, what is it that they are probably dealing with in their, personal lives, and hence how to make it a more inclusive environment, whether it's in school, whether it's in games, whether it's in, hobby activity, or whether it's at work. So there is stereotyping, if you ask me, in a nutshell. It exists. I think with every passing year, more people who are conscious, about it. There's more change, positive change happening. It will take a long time, but I also tell women that you have to break out of it. It's for you to have that, have that conversation with people around you. Again, it's your personal ecosystem and environment, and talk about it, be open about it, and, express yourself, and you make those choices. That's the only way to, continue making it a systemic change, so that eventually, hopefully, we leave behind a better place for the next generation. At least that's been my attempt, saying that, at least, future generations coming in should see more role models, should see a, a more enabling environment. And I mean, I'm not even talking about the what an organization can do, since we're talking more about the softer side of it, right? You could do a lot of things in terms of, like I said, having daycare centers, and, more flexible policies. All of that is a given, but it's also about how do you start, getting people to accept that change, and to, at every opportunity, to use their own personal sphere of influence, to, make that change happen, however small the changes, right? Could be with a friend, a neighbor, a colleague, who's working, anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. And bang on that part, that why can't we start it at home, right? that is something probably you can stereotype, like you said. Breaking the stereotype might take a huge effort from each and every person and organization. When we talk about it, maybe it will happen in each and every organization too. But why not be the role model for your kids, for children who are watching you? That might
Yes.
just help. Be the role model for your own family members. They will see the change and they will follow it, right? That, I think, would be the first step towards breaking the stereotype. Whatever is in your power, try and do that. I think rightly said over there. And one day we can definitely will be able to see. We see the changes from where it was 20 years back and where we are now, right? More and more people,
Yeah.
like you said, are there in the management team, and they're at the level where they can take some decision. So which we used to see little less maybe a decade before. So that stereotype, as we talk about, and you spoke about the choices, right? So what choice do you make? Do you decide to be there? And this is again a question which makes women wonder. Do you follow what society expects you to do? Do you make a choice based on what society expects you to do? Or do you go by your own choice and what is required to do? This is again a crossroad where I feel many women get stuck. What would you advise over there? This also happens with many of us.
Yes. It's a constant struggle, like I said, right? So I can share, and this is a closed group, so I can share a personal incident which I've shared a few times with a few other people as well, right? And it's a very small thing, but a very telling thing, right? Um, if you ask me, have I exercised personal choice, in a very conscious way, saying yes, I am deprioritizing my work right now, and wanting to do something else. I have done that in the last 10 years, and I feel quite happy that I've done that, right? And be the change that you want to see is very important. And I realized, when we started our career at a time where, like I said, things were just growing. It was a phase of extreme rapid change and liberalization. It was just exciting, and we worked long hours, right? We worked long hours because we enjoyed it. It's not because we were made to work, and it became a family, right? We would work, we would party, we would take a break in the evening. I remember office used to be in Narman Point, so yeah, we would go out, see the sunset, come back, continue working, go home at midnight. It was okay, right? But it became somewhere a part of our DNA, and you continued working late, sometimes due to peer pressure, sometimes because you just thought that's the right thing to do. So when I reached certain level where I had a team under me, I always made it a point. So initially it started by telling them, why are you sitting here? Why are you still in office? If you're still in office, you're a loser, right? I'm here because I think I'm slower than you guys, or I probably need longer than you all. You're smarter than me, and I meant it. Not, I didn't mean it fictitiously, right? So you should be out. Don't feel pressurized because I'm here. So that was my step one. And then I realized that's still not right, right? My step two was to make a conscious decision. And I said, okay, 2 days in a week, I will leave office at 6 o'clock, come what may, and I'll be out. I can go back and work. Nobody knows that I'm going to go back home and work, right? As long as they don't see it. I was very conscious to say I will not send them emails from home, because then they'll say, oh, what the hell, she's gone, but she's working, right? So I'll draft them all and I'll send them in the morning or in the day or whatever. They don't need to know, that's my secret. But I will be out. So they actually see me doing it. Now, I have to admit that that has all gone out of the window after being a startup. That's a whole different. Now I wake up at 12 in the night and send messages because they're more like reminders to myself. But but at least as long as I was still working in a more organized setup, that's what I did, right? And so that's the way to at least show people that you walk the talk. So and you're asking them to balance their priorities. And this is work is not the only thing. Yeah, you have another life that you need to focus on. Another example that I often give is, again, if I could wind the clock back, yeah, when my daughter was born, and there's another colleague, dear friend, also now, who also had a young, daughter around the same age. We were both working in the same part of the bank, and every time my daughter had a birthday party, you know, I never made it. It was at 4 o'clock in the evening, right? I didn't make it. Now, would anybody have stopped me? No. And to be honest, half my head was saying, yeah, I can go to this birthday party, but there'll be so much work left. There was nobody telling me. We had wonderful people around me. I have to admit, I was blessed. I could have easily walked away. But part of it was, hey, I better finish my work and go back because then I can do other stuff. And part of it was also that I don't want people to turn around and say, oh, now that she has a child, she's out, right? And this guy who was working with me, and we were both peers, once a week invariably would walk up and say, "Hey, Anjali, bye, see you. I'm leaving." And I'm what? Hey, it's my daughter is going to a birthday party, and I'm going with her. And off he would go, right? And I don't think it bothered him. I don't think it mattered to anybody else. I don't think anybody around noticed that Anjali was not going for her daughter's birthday parties, right? Now, between you and me, after some time, I also realized I didn't enjoy those birthday parties, but that's a personal choice, right? That's a different reason for not going, but not because, I didn't feel like leaving work because I felt guilty or I felt that I had to prioritize this, right? And I shared this example consciously with, women later saying, look, I did that. I regretted it. Maybe I would have still done it, but for different reasons. So please don't do that. Don't have this self-imposed notion of what is right and wrong, and do what you feel like. So if your heart says you need to be there with your child, be there, unless of course you're in a whatever, you're sitting in a branch, in a banking context, the branch is open, you're in a teller counter, yeah, you can't go away, unfortunately, you'll have to take the day off. You don't have the
Yeah.
luxury of walking away early. That's okay. Yeah, you choose when you take your days off. But if you're in an environment where you can make that choice, you can always make it up another day. And speak about it openly, right? And don't try to hide and go away, or hope that I'll slink away and nobody will notice me. Have that conversation with your boss or your whoever is around, and you'll be very surprised. Sometimes there's this other word I use: make use of the silence. Make use of the silence, right? A boss will also want to be known as a nice person, right? How often will a boss says, you can't go to your child's birthday party. He or she might groan inwardly, but they say, okay, sure, right? As long as you know that you're being true and authentic to your work, as long as you know that you're going to complete your task and you're not going to let down, you should be able to make those choices, and you must make those choices which make you feel that you're doing the right thing, right? It makes you feel that you are being fair to both responsibilities that you have, right? Authenticity has been extremely high for me, throughout in my life and career, saying, you know how can I be authentic, wherever I can, right? I mean, sometimes authenticity, you might also have to hold yourself back because you don't want to be blunt. That's different. But yeah, as long as you can be authentic. So that's my little piece of advice, saying it's tough. You have to make choices, but do it in moderation. If you have to exercise some choices, find ways to make sure that nobody can point fingers that your work is incomplete. Nobody's going to hold it against you.
Absolutely, Anjali, absolutely. And I think this incident about your birthday parties remained with you because 10 years from where you were and where you are now, that probably that was one choice which you could have made at that point, right? So I think, yes, our viewers also need to keep this in mind, that choice is always with you. What you can
Yes,
pick up, there will always be a choice, and it's up to you. Life is made up full of choices, right? Life is full of choices.
that's the beauty of
And
life. Yes.
I'll just add, maybe you need to also see 10 years down the line, will you be happy with that choice? Like right now, what you said, also probably they need to, when they are at least on that, intersection, or that crossroad, they need to, when they are going in for that major choice, they should see whether 10 years down the line, will they be happy with that choice, what they made, and have no
Yes.
regrets over it. And once you make the choice, then there shouldn't be any regrets. I think that would be something for our viewers to take from this, what you have shared. And thank you for sharing. I'm sure that viewers will also remember, and me personally, I'll remember this when, have to make some choices, right? So
And look,
coming to this,
we're not superhumans. So I just want to jump in there and say there will be regrets,
absolutely.
right? There will be regrets, but internalize it and move on and say, okay, I won't repeat this, right? Don't dwell on it, because
Yeah,
then you can get into a negative spiral of saying, oh no, how do I turn the clock out back, right? You can't.
right, right.
Move on, and make sure that the next time that opportunity comes, you don't make that same mistake, and share with as many people as you can, so they take away, they, at least somebody else will not repeat the same mistake that you did.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have that clarity. I would say that, like, Anuranjita, who is the founder of VAs, has come up with his written this book, "Can I Have It All?" Right, and in that he talks about the clarity and the choice. So
Yeah,
it's more about that, the choice that you make and the clarity of thoughts that you have when you make those choices. That's very important. And there
absolutely.
will be regrets, but be sure of, okay, that those regrets are part of life. Like they say, with every failure you learn something, right? Even if it is a failure, you learn something and you move ahead. Life is That's the way life will go on, I think.
Right.
So if I have to talk about this, career and building and being successful, or taking those steps in your career, what would be the ways to build network? Because nowadays when you talk about career and moving ahead, steering ahead in your career, we know there is so much of importance that comes on your network, right? Especially,
Right.
I'm sure, when you talk about your startup also, right?
Yes.
It's something which is so very important even for a business, for a startup. So what
Yes.
would be your top 3 tips for anyone who wants to build that network?
The first thing I'll tell people is that networking takes time.
Hmm.
So don't assume that networking will happen on its own. Yeah. So if you we'll come to whether you need it or not, right? But if you want to create a network, you have to set aside some time. It doesn't happen in your free time. It doesn't happen just by sitting quietly. You
Yes.
have to put yourself out, right? So that's a very important part. And I speak about this quite passionately because um, uh, I personally believe that I am not a great networker, right? When it
Okay.
comes to building or sustaining networks, right? Um, I think I'm quite blessed that I'm usually, when I connect with people, I connect, quite well. So if I'm engaged with you in a transaction, or I'm engaged with you in a conversation or a relationship, right? All good. But networking is about how you find ways to keep in touch with people who you think are relevant and important, even when you're not in a day-to-day environment with them, right? And people who you believe are important. They could be mentors, they could be peers who you learn from, it could be somebody that you want, a sponsor. um, Coming to, is a network important? I think it is. And network could be internal network in an organization, it could be an external network, and it's good to have a bit of both, right? Because otherwise you become too much inward looking. So within an organization, yes, I think that part I did quite okay, because for me the work was okay, right? I have to say that many times at work, you know things or problems that came up, the solution invariably lies in personal relationships, right?
Hmm.
You go approach a person who has the answer. That person's either help back to you, or how soon, or how that person returns back, is always a function of a personal relation or a relationship, right? You will do, if somebody approaches me, of course it's my job, I will do exactly what is required. But the amount of thought I would put into it, if I know the person and I connect with the person, will be a bit
Hmm.
different. Yes, you will invest a little more, and so that's nice. I've I remember one time when I was doing my own internals, soul searching, and I was telling somebody that I don't know what I bring to the table. I'm not really a specialist. I'm a generalist. I've done so many functions, right? And what's the one thing that differentiates me? And somebody once said it very interesting, saying your ability to get things done, and that
Hmm.
ability to know who to reach out to and to ask them is equally important. So you don't know all the answers, you can't do everything yourself, you can't be a specialist, which is the truth. Some people are, and I really admire them. But to know who you can go to and to be able to reach out to that person and to get it done is important, and that's why you need that network, whether it's internal or external. Yeah. um, and like I said, you have to invest in that network. Internally is very easy because you might still walk up, have a cup of coffee, it's very easy, right? Externally you have to make the time. Yeah. What kind of networks? I would say that you should always have a reasonably varied people different from you, right? The temptation to go to, hey, I want to go to another Anjali because I vibe well with, Anjali. You vibe well with people who are like you. That's the easy part, right? But then, you probably are going to only hear back very similar things, right? So try and think of people who you think are different, right? Or come from either different background, a different profession, or different beliefs, or could be similar to you, but at a different, could be a junior, could be a senior. I've often said mentoring, I've always been the first one to put my hand up, and they say, do you want to volunteer to be a mentor? And I've said yes, because I've learned much more from the person I'm mentoring. We never had formal reverse mentoring in the organizations that I was, but I think that's so powerful, right? Every time you mentor, you're learning so much. So yeah, your network could be juniors, could be seniors, could be peers, but keep a diverse, set, and look for some sponsors. If you're really looking at, how do I make those changes in life? How do I go to somebody? Uh, and you can't choose a sponsor, as they say, but you can definitely, the sponsor has to choose you, right? That's the thing, right? A mentor you can choose. You can go and tell somebody, hey, I look up to you, I admire you, will you mentor me? Will you be my guide? Sure. You can't tell the person you'll be my sponsor, because that person has to feel, I know Anjali well enough, I value what she brings, and I will be. And a sponsor is somebody who will actually, make a positive statement to somebody else about you, right? Who will say, "Hey, I know Anjali, and she's fantastic, and you should consider her for X, Y, Z," or "Hey, I think she can do the job." That's a sponsor. A mentor won't do that, right? How do you get a sponsor? I mean, you typically start off by finding a mentor, and hopefully somewhere along the way, one of those mentors becomes a sponsor, because they start having that kind of faith, belief, and confidence in you, right? But I think that is very powerful to have a sponsor, somebody, because there are changes, there are times in life where I've had it, right? I'm hiring, and I find two equally extremely strong people, and I'm confused, right? But if there is a sponsor who I know and says, hey, this one you won't go wrong, I would lean towards that person. All things being equal, I would lean towards that person. So I think it's very valuable to have those kind of relationships or people in your life, and equally give back. You should also choose a few people that you become sponsors to as you rise in your career, and give somebody else a helping hand. Uh, I would say a woman, but it could be a woman, man, anybody. Let's be fair.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think those tips will definitely work well. First of all, network. You have to invest time and effort in that. It doesn't happen. Just to summarize it for our viewers also, I'm just putting those tips together. So first of all, invest the time and the effort that you need to put in for building that network. Again, the next point is like getting the work done. You can probably you'll have to look out for different people and network with different people to get the work done. And then you
Yeah.
rightly spoke about the sponsor part right now, right? And look out for people who are diverse. Like don't look out for vibe with someone who is not like you. And don't go out for, because that will be actually expanding your entire you can say the pool of talent that you will get, or the pool of the people that you bring together and network with. I think that those are the real useful ones. Anjali, what we have is also the audience, who have put across their questions. So,
Yes,
because
please.
of the time that we have, I would like to go for the first audience question that we have over here. What are top three strengths that emerging women leaders should adapt to thrive as senior leadership roles and also more as entrepreneurs? What are the
Hmm.
top three strengths that emerging women leaders should adapt,
Yeah.
or to thrive as senior leadership roles or to move on as entrepreneurs?
Um, as I'm now realizing, entrepreneurship is a whole different, a ball game from being in a organization. And I think your own founder, Anuranjita, will probably, I don't know if she's on the talk today, but she will probably be able to answer that much better, because she's been on this journey longer than me. I've only been an entrepreneur now for the last, 6 months, but I'm loving every minute of it, including the stress and the joy. But if I were to, again, I think some of it I've already said, right? And I'm thinking it's not, I don't have those, big fancy, pearls of wisdom or diamonds to give. Very simple, if you ask me. I think the first one has always for me been authenticity, right? I think if you are authentic, uh, then you are honest about so many things, about, what is it that, you want to do? What is your purpose in life, right? And how are you going to go about it? and that will come through everything that you do. And if you are a leader, people are looking up to you, and they see the authenticity, right? And people gravitate towards, as a leader, what is it that you want people to believe and join you on your journey, right? And it's, if you see the person who you think is actually embodies what the person is trying to achieve or trying to do or trying to a message the person is sending, I think that's very important, right? And that also keeps me happy, because I know that I am bringing my true self, and it's not I'm coming on stage and putting on an act, because that's very tiring, right? I mean, talk to the actors, it's an extremely tiring job, right? So if you had to do that day in and day out, you would exhaust yourself, right? So I think that is one part. The second thing is learning. I said that right in the beginning, right? The learning never stops. So be open to learning, and acknowledge the fact that you need to learn. Nobody can know it all, and enjoy that process. Yeah. I think that is extremely important. Especially now as a entrepreneur, I'm seeing that, right? It's about really relearning some of the skill sets that I had, when I was much younger and I started out. So some of it is just even relearning what I did and then I stopped doing as I became a manager and a leader. And some of it is again about new learnings, about new technology or new ways of approaching people or social media. All of that is new learnings, right? Which is nothing to do. So some of it is just reviving old memory cells and muscles, and some of it is new learning. So the new learning never stops. And the last one I would say is pace it out. Yeah, I mean, it is your life is actually a marathon, and so is your career, right? And there will be phases where probably there may be a sprint, which is either required because you have the energy, you want to do it, or that specific role demands it, right? But by and large, it is a marathon, right? And so don't burn yourself out. Don't rush into it with everything, because then before you know it, you'll either have made choices that you might regret, or you may have burnt yourself out uh, by the time you reach the top, and you're not even able to enjoy that phase. Yeah. So pace it out, and that pacing it out also automatically encompasses the other point, which is define success for yourself. Don't be led by anybody else. And sure, you will, your definition of success, because you've got so much overhang of what people believe success is, you will have elements of that. But I always say, go back to your gut, right? Go back to your gut and say, is this really what makes me happy? Is this really what I want to do? And you could be in a situation to say, yeah, I mean, what will make me happy is if I become a CEO of an organization and people say, wow, you've become a CEO. Acknowledge it and move on. Say, okay, fine, this is it, right? Or acknowledge it and say, I don't care if I'm a CEO, as long as I'm doing well, I'm respected for what I'm doing, I'm considered to be a person who's really an expert on what I'm doing. That's good enough for me, right? So define that success for yourself in your mind, and and make sure, do that reality check, that resonates with you, and so that authenticity again goes with that resonates with you, really makes you happy, because you can't drag yourself, whether it's at home or at work, you can't drag yourself out of bed in the morning if you don't feel happy about yourself first. So feel happy about yourself, about the choices you've made, and then go along. I probably said more than three things, but I think they all kind of uh,
No, no, no. I will cover I will just brief, again, I will take those pointers and I will say that the last point, the last 2 points can be combined and said as one. Being authentic was one. And then, yes, learning, never stop learning, even when you
yeah,
are, the founder, when you are an entrepreneur also, there is a constant learning. Like right now, what you spoke about, you have started your own, and agree and tech and finance is so probably something new, and you're constant learning even in that. And
yeah,
again, then going back to defining your own success, and there will be part where you will be sprinting. And I would say
mm,
in that marathon, maybe there are hurdles, although in the in the actual marathon you do not. But then yes, you will come across some hurdles, but then you have to cross it and you have to go over it, right? And then maybe you will be sprinting much faster. So
yeah,
define your own success and pace it out. That's something which I think our viewers will also be picking it up from your talk over here. Anjali, I would like to go for some more of the audience question if you're okay with
Sure,
that. Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure,
So there
please.
is one more which has come in. What has been one of the greatest barriers in your corporate career, and how did you overcome it?
Hmm. Greatest barrier.
That will take you back to all your, Citibank days and Bank days.
I'm trying to remember. Um, I mean, I can't remember a any massive sort of barrier, so to say. I mean, there are lots of challenges as you go along, right? And at every stage there are things that are happening. But let me answer that a bit differently, right? Um, there was a crossroad that I came to at one point when I was in the I started my journey, as I said, in the retail bank, right? And from the retail bank there was an opportunity to move to the corporate side of the bank, um, um, actually to more to what we call the commercial bank, right? And I remember at that stage when that somebody asked me that would you be interested, right? And initially the first few reaction was one of fear, anxiety, and almost a sense of I remember still talking to my then sort of my then boss to say, by the way, just to give you context, even today it's true that the retail and corporate of most banks are very very different. They're literally like two different organizations, even though they're one organization. Very rarely do you see people moving from one to the other. And 20 years ago, it was even more rare. I was probably one of the first few people, maybe a handful of people had made that transition before me, many more after me, which was nice. But moving from one to it was almost like going from one organization to another. So the first question I asked my boss is, why do you want me to go? Am I not doing well here? Have I done something wrong? Why am I being, so that self doubt, right? And my boss actually looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? You're being asked for, like the corporate bank wants you, to move there because they feel that you bring a certain skill set, whatever it is that they need, because that division was just being kind of started. And they wanted to, grow this, what was called addressing small and medium corporates. And they wanted certain skill sets, that came from the retail side, all of that, right? And so that was my first. I said okay. And the second thing which he said, which is very interesting, is to say, look, if you're being given a choice, right? Obviously, they'll interview you, whatever. They're not taking you blindly. The onus is as much on the person who's taking you into that new person to make sure that you succeed, right? It's not just you. So don't take on this unnecessary stress or burden, because we don't set organizations don't set people up for failure. Why would they? Why? They're not stupid, right? So it's like saying, yeah, I mean, you have self-doubt because you've not done it. It's like leaving your comfort zone. This is the family I've been used to. This is the kind of work I've been doing, working with retail clients. And I think that was great advice. If I look back to my career, if I hadn't made that shift, I don't think I would be where I am today in terms of what I'm doing. Maybe I would have ended up as an entrepreneur in a different journey. Who knows, right? But I still believe that was an inflection point. So I wouldn't call it a barrier, but so to say. But yes, it was an inflection point. Maybe if I'd stayed on in the division I was, maybe I wouldn't have done as well. Maybe I would have stagnated. Who knows? Or maybe I would have risen to the top. Anything could have happened, but it was an opportunity. And my initial reactions, and I'm sharing that with people because you may come across such a situation, right? And it's very easy to get into self-doubt about why the what is the motive behind that opportunity that's being shown to you, the concern. And I've seen that even in my career. I remember when I was at DB at Deutsche Bank, and I wanted to there were some people in my team I wanted to move. And a guy, not even a girl in this case, and the guy said, why are you moving me? Same, exactly the same thing. Is it that I'm not doing well? Is it that, I pissed you off in some way? And I told the person, I said, look, because it's good for you. And, maybe the person was not used to it. Very rarely do you see bosses moving your best talent out because it's good for
Mm.
that person. And it's good for the organization. I said, hey, I'm only asking you to move because I think you'll be fantastic in this other role. It'll be great for the, organization overall, and I'm letting you go because you're good, not because you're bad. Right? And the person made that choice, and still thanks me. So yeah, I had an opportunity to do the reverse favor to somebody. So I'll say, barriers sometimes are self created.
Yeah.
Be conscious of that, and if that creeps in, then talk to somebody and validate whatever is going through your head. Don't just make your own assumptions.
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, what you spoke about, there is a term called imposter syndrome, right? We all go through that. I mean,
Yeah,
doubting our own capabilities, doubting ourselves that and in fact, it was an opportunity given because seeing your talent, seeing your capabilities to you, and then you passed it on the same thing to your subordinate, right? So,
right.
in fact, the audience question also, the third one that had come in was absolutely the same. How do you overcome this imposter syndrome? But you covered it by this example that you gave. You have to understand and come out of that old imposter syndrome, saying thinking about
Right.
what is it that you bring onto the table, right? And real,
Yes,
I think
yes.
it's more about understanding your own capabilities.
And I don't want to belittle that. I think it's a very
Yeah.
serious issue, and I have to tell you, when I decided to make the transition, multiple reasons, that
Hmm.
I stopped, when I left, Deutsche Bank, and then after that I said, okay, I want to do something which is more meaningful. I want to do something which has a larger impact, and I want to do something with a lot of digital. And it's quite scary because all of these things, I mean, it's like going back, to dealing with retail, and in this case farmers and agriculture, right, which I've never done in my life, with a lot of technology, right? And I mean, I know WIT is all about technology, women in technology, and I should shamelessly say, any woman who wants to be in a startup, please reach out to me. It's the toughest to find people in technology, and I'm beginning to learn technology and do it myself. The whole AI, ML piece, and all of that. And a bunch of us, we co-founded it, and for some reason I was voted into running it. Right, somebody had to run it. Right, we needed to have one CEO, and I was happy to be a co-founder, but I was nervous to be a CEO. And I was saying, I'm not sure. And my husband actually told me, he said that, you're going through an imposter syndrome. And it's true, right? After all of this, right? After, and I think, with humility, I can say I've done reasonably well in my career. But yes, that whole thing was, why me? Why are they asking me? I think, one of them would be much better suited, but why are they telling me? Can I do it? And yes, there was that moment. And then, of course, then you sit down and you think about it, and it helps to have somebody tell you, right? So, for me, it was nice. My husband told me a few things as to why he thought I was the right person, and then, a few other people, and then I internalized it, right? So, feel don't feel bad if you get that, but recognize it immediately and kill it quickly. That's my only advice, right? Just kill it quickly by talking to a few people, because the longer you stay in that imposter syndrome, that's when you start doing things that are inauthentic. And then you start over investing in one over the other, because you're just trying to constantly overcompensate. But the truth is, yes, you do face it in life. Yes, it does come up, whether you like it or not.
I think absolutely beautifully said and rightly said. I would say that we all go through it. So just realize it as early as possible and overcome it, because that will not help you being in that imposter syndrome. And if you have a person, if you have a mentor to do that, or even if your support system talks to you about that, talk to people and come out of it as early as possible. That's the solution, I suppose, like you
Right.
did in your journey. So very rightly said, Anjali. So I know we are reaching to the hour of this session. So let me just ask you this last question. It has been
Yeah.
such an interesting conversation that in fact we can just go on and on, but I'm very conscious of your time and also our viewers time. So I will come to the last question that I would like to
Right.
ask you, although in some form or shape you have covered it, but I would still go with this last part. About our entire thing about can I have it all, right?
Yeah.
So in this, what is that it for you?
Hmm.
And
Ah.
can I have it all? How do you define that it for?
When I saw that question once, I think somebody's put it on the comments, and I was thinking IT, that they want to know what I what is my.
I can very well relate to that. Right now, you're so much in the tech space.
I'm obsessed with understanding that, and I'm actually thinking of taking a Python course myself, so I understand it a bit better. But
You can
so
come to
what is
us. We have lot of courses
I
over there.
probably will. Probably will, right? So
Yeah.
what does it mean for you? It means different things at different points in time, right?
Hmm.
But I think the one constant, if I say what does it mean to you, is that do I, like I said, I go back to, do I wake up in the morning feeling happy about where I am and what I'm doing in life, right? And if I am feeling, that unease about something, or that regret or stress, then it's not working. So the it for me is that, work hard, you know party hard, be happy. There are lots of things that I like to do. How do I kind of make sure that I find the time to do a lot of it, which is what keeps me whole, right? I mean, if I was to only be Anjali the career woman or Anjali the mother, I would not be whole, right? I am a friend, I am a mother, I am a daughter. And how do I keep it all together and still wake up every morning feeling happy? And there are good days and bad days, right? But if I'm wake up feeling unhappy for more than 3 or 4 days in a row, then something's wrong. Yeah. So for me, the it is that I've made certain choices, yeah, and are those choices serving me well? If they're not serving me well, they should go out the window. And if they're serving me well, then am I doing that in an authentic way? And I'm enjoying the process is very important, right? At the end of the day, it's you know and the happiness begins with you, and you feeling good about yourself. Nobody outside needs to tell you, right? If you feel good about yourself, then I think everybody sees that and everybody feels that. I think that would be for me the big it.
So rightly said, and definitely that reflects on your face, and I'm sure that our viewers will resonate with this very well. I'm sure there were a lot of points, and if I have to personally pick up, there was so much about being authentic, being happy, being always learning, and pace it out and come out of those whatever fear you have and make those choices. It's all about the choices, and like you said, when you get up in the morning, be happy with the choices that you have made. That's very important. I think it has been really, a great for me personally. Definitely, I can say that it has been a great conversation with you, Anjali. There were so many points that we picked up, and it's just the journey, the entire journey that you have been through, and your, personal experiences that you have shared with us. Not only from your banking side, but also as an entrepreneur, what are the challenges that you're facing? But that's the choice, and you are enjoying it. That's the best part about it. Learning all the new things that will definitely, there will be a lot of takeaways from this conversation for our viewers. Thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to connecting with you again sometime. Best wishes for your this new journey that you have started this 6 months back. Wishing you all the luck for that. See you again. Thank you so much. And thanks to all our viewers for joining us in this talk. Yes,
Thank you
Anjali.
so much, Shreya. Thank you to the Witch team as well for giving me this opportunity. And if, like you said, if even one person has taken something away from this and it can make a meaningful difference in their lives, then I'm glad I could do that. So thank you
That
so
one,
much.
yeah, that one person you are seeing right on the screen itself, Anjali, and there are many more. I'm sure about that. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
Thank you so much. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.